me in prayer, please. Father God, we come to you now, and we're just thankful for this time and the desire to get together to discuss service above self. We just pray, Father, for this country and the tumultuous time that we're in. We pray for peace in this country. Father, I just thank you for this food that we've got before us, and I pray that we use it to not only to our nourishment, but to the furtherance of your will. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. You'll face the flag and join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
is it the truth?
Second,
is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth,
will it be beneficial to all concerned?
fifth.
Fun.
All right, we're not going to sing by executive order, so you all need to. I know you were waiting on it. I actually had just a moment to speak to this particular individual just now. We have a guest with us. He's actually a visiting Rotarian. He's in between clubs today, but we just talked a little bit about maybe joining the Carrollton Farmers Branch, one of those clubs over there. So I'm very excited to welcome Steve Hull to our meeting today. So this is Roxanne's guest today.
Does he want to sing?
No, he does not. That's quashed. We're already past it. Okay. Rotarians with guests today. I've already told you about Roxanne, and David Weiland has a couple of guests.
Yeah, I've got two guests. First, I'd ask Cynthia R. to stand. Cynthia is the new Service Center Director for Salvation Army. And she has already filled out a membership application. So welcome, Cynthia. And I'll ask Robert Smith to stand. Many of you probably know Robert. He is an attorney and a friend of mine. And I've given him an application. He hasn't given it back to me yet. Welcome, Robert.
Okay. Go ahead with happy buttons.
Okay. Who's happy to be here today? Let's start right over here, John.
I'm good.
You're good.
I'm happy, but I don't know why.
Okay.
I'll still give you $1.
All right, Tracy.
Okay, I've got a few.
Ooh, she's got some announcements to make here. There you go.
One,
Okay.
they're full there. One, I just want to thank everybody for the support for the Home and Garden Show. I've been told it was a great success, but I just want to thank everyone again for that. And we're doing one in the spring. I'll keep reminding you from now till then. And the other one is, it's my daughter's 20th birthday. So happy birthday to Eleanor. She's getting older. And I'd like to thank Chris Gage for coming up and standing up in front of Altrusa and talking to us all about Facebook and social media. Thanks. And I just want a special shout out to thank a special friend of mine who listens to me and doesn't really complain about it.
All right.
I'm happy that today is my last day for setup and cleanup crew, so remember September people to look and see if you were on today, because today's our last day.
All right, thank you.
Well, I think you've done such a wonderful job. I'd like to nominate you for next month also. Gloria and I did park cars Saturday morning for the bicycle race. We left. We were going down to meet our daughter in Shreveport and had the opportunity to pass 550 bicycles on Highway 69.
Yeah, there's close to 700 bikers.
Oh, really?
Oh, who's going first? Bill?
My dollar is for Don McBride. He's so happy the bike ride's over, he didn't even bother to come today.
My dollar is, I'm happy with all the SAG drivers that worked all day long Saturday. See, you get to drive around in a new air-conditioned truck all day long, but it's all day long. You start at about 7 in the morning, and it's probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon before you're through. And for those SAG drivers who have not yet given me your report of your activities, I'm gonna need it soon because there's gonna be a yet unannounced meeting, unannounced as of yet, but we'll get together and do a debrief and figure out what we did right and what we did wrong. So I'm gonna need that information for that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Troy?
I'm glad the SAG drivers had 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. with the air conditioning. Chris and I did 65 miles on the gravel run, and that was excruciating, and now I can sit. Anyway, and we would have finished, but there was a wrong turn at Albuquerque that I made, so the way it is. But we still put in 65 miles.
Wow.
How
Okay.
did you get back?
Moving to this side of the room. Jim? No words, just happy to be here. Larry?
I'm happy that David was happy to ride around with an air conditioned vehicle. At least I had a tent set up where I could get a little bit of a breeze, but it was still hot where we were at.
You wanna drive SAG?
But I had fun.
Hey, the SAG drivers had to roll the windows down to talk to people if the water stopped, so
Yeah.
that was hot.
That's
And
so
pick up
bad.
people.
Well, I'm happy that my son and daughter-in-law gave birth yesterday to a nearly 8-pound baby. 6:04, so if you like staying up 48 hours, it was a great day.
And happy birthday, Larry Drine.
I just wanted to say that I survived the 6 a.m. t-shirt pass out with Dennis Sickles. It was a lot of fun. And the Lake Tawakoni Regional Chamber of Commerce is still the best checkpoint. And thanks for the Rotary guys that came. That was it.
Okay, you know why I'm happy? Bike ride's over. I do want to thank everybody who came out. We had a lot of volunteers that spent all day there. Link there, 5:30 in the morning. To everyone who stayed for cleanup, it was a great day. It was a success. We getting some surveys back, very positive. A few, tweaks that people would like to see, and so we'll talk about those later. But I just want to thank Caravite, their volunteers, Don, David, all the cogs that really make this thing work, and you just don't realize how many hours that they put in to make this ride a reality. So just thanks to everybody, and yes, we've already announced the date for the next one. So we
I was just about to say that the meeting for Cotton Patch 2020 starts next week.
Yeah, last Wednesday, I got to go meet my 4th great-granddaughter.
Sam, how many riders do we have all together?
We had 500 and right at 550 Cotton Patch Classic riders. I haven't gotten
156?
156 gravel grinders. So we're, we've seen a decline in the CPC ride, but we've seen an increase in the gravel grinders. We had 38 gravel grinders last year, so that was a huge increase. That's a 5-time, increase of gravel grinders. So we expect that to be even larger next year. So hopefully we can increase our Cotton Patch Classic, but we are starting to see a lot of road riders going to the gravel. So
Perfect.
We'll see how that works.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of y'all for participating with this PB&J campaign. I apologize for not getting here early enough because I was supposed to have it all set up. But I've been on vacation, and I was on vacation last week getting much needed sleep that I don't usually get. So anyway, with Katie's permission, would you care if I go ahead and set that up? And,
go ahead.
And I want to thank everybody for your contribution. It's been so great. We've got a lot of contribution from here, and then in the community, my office is kind of getting full, so we're really excited about that. Thank you. So I'm going to set that up, and right before we leave, if we'll take a group picture for the paper, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah. Oh,
So I would like to announce that I have information up here. I meant to put it on all the tables and I didn't get to it. On a meeting that we're actually holding here at the Landmark on October 3rd. This is for any TRS, the retired teachers that are going to be impacted by the hospital system terminating their contract with Humana. I just want to make sure that everybody in Hunt County knows that they have options. This is a free meeting. It is not, there's not going to be any information given about specific products. It is totally generic. Just come. We're actually going to have lots of hospital staff there, so questions could be asked and concerns could be addressed there. So October 3rd here at the Landmark at 6 p.m. and in Commerce at the emergency facility there, the community room attached to the ER there on October 7th at 6.
Thank you, Katie. Let's do the Deck of Destiny. Okay. I'm gonna have you close your eyes. Okay, pick out a ticket. Okay, say the number slowly.
3, 4, 7, 7, 1, 4.
1 4. Who's got 1 4?
Who's got 1 4?
Woo!
Oh, Troy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Come on, you do it.
Ace of spades. Ace of spades. Oh. King of clubs.
What's that pay?
Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and also talk about a few announcements that I have to make. Next week, I know that some of you have heard a little bit of some rumors and a little bit of this and that about virtual membership. We are going to go live with the virtual membership next week. I'm going to have more information to pass out about what that means. But basically what this is going to mean is it's going to give individuals that maybe cannot physically be here on a Wednesday meeting but do want to participate in all of our fundraisers. They want to participate in service. They have a servant's heart and they want to be a part of our club but cannot physically get here. This is going to allow that opportunity for us to grow our club in a way that I think is a needful movement. So we are going to go live. It will be recorded. We're going to be using the recordings that Kami already has, plus some Facebook Live stuff. I want to make sure that all of you know, too, that we will be asking a few of you to do some interviews with us and little tidbits that will be posted on Facebook. So when especially Chris Gage or Crystal Williams comes up and asks you, that's what it's in response to, or it's about the virtual membership and just getting the information out about who we are. I mean, look, we've got judges right here, right? Everybody wants to get to know Kelly Aiken. We've got people in this room right here that are the reason that I joined Rotary. We've got Rich Carter. We've got people, Chris Gage. Do you know how influential Chris is? He is amazing. I mean, the stuff that he does is, look, he's up here working right now, right? We've got people in this club that are, everybody in this club is an outstanding Rotarian, and we want to make sure to drive that home and really offer the opportunity to get to know the people and the members of this club. So that's going to be going live next Wednesday. The next announcement I have is our Cozumel Club, which, as you remember a few weeks ago, I announced that we are now officially sister clubs with our Cozumel Club, and that's where we go to do our international service. And they are looking for instruments, so any used instruments that you might have buried in the closet somewhere from a child who's moved out and moved on, anything that you might have or come across. Musical instruments, not, not surgical instruments. I already have those from Rich anyway, they're down in the haunted house. So I need musical instruments, so anything that you might have from a kid that played band, please let me know, and please get those donated, and we'll get those to Cozumel when we go. The next thing that I want to very quickly also, because I know I'm getting into the speaker's time here, for those of you that do not know or weren't able to attend, last Thursday was the North Texas Giving Day. And as a club, we gave CASA and Lori Cope $2,000 for North Texas Giving Day. So I want to make sure that everybody knows how awesome that is. This is amazing from this club. And it's all through your fundraising efforts and service efforts that we're able to do that. And so I have right here a thank you card from Lori and CASA to thank all the Rotarians for all of their hard work and the fact that we are able to give to that wonderful, wonderful service. I would also, I don't know if y'all noticed, I know a couple people have talked about it already, but anybody notice that we did something on Saturday? That was a big deal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I would like to give a huge shout out because I have been just on the peripheral side of working with some of the people that made the Cotton Patch Challenge a reality. And the amount of effort and time and just blood, sweat, and tears that goes into that event is astounding. So I would like for Tim Dooley, I know Dawn is in bed asleep, Jim probably is asleep too, David Weiland, Link, and John Clark to all stand right now, please. Tim is the chairman of the bike ride, Dawn is the bike ride director, Jim is director over the corner marshals, David Weiland over SAG, which is safety and gear, and Link, you were there from Thursday till all through Saturday doing the rest stop stuff, and I saw you and what you did.
The Monday before.
And the Monday before.
I failed to give you one name that's made a significant contribution,
Okay,
and that's
tell me.
Bill Ralston. He
And
gets
Bill Ralston.
downtown
Bill
at 5:30 in the morning,
Oh, yes.
and he's over all of the parking.
That's right, Bill, you need to stand. Put your fork down and stand up. Over parking. The amount, and then John was basically an assistant over all of it, all day long, weeks before. These people deserve our enormous round of applause for all of the things that they contributed to this amazing fundraiser that we have. So I want to thank you very much. And of course, we can't leave out the fact that Caravide was there. I had a Caravide rider with me, and we had Caravide riders in all the SAG, and Caravide was just as important, and they did just as much. And Casey Smith was hands down an amazing contribution to our event. Okay.
One other person,
Chris is just amazing in general.
national anthem.
Oh my goodness gracious, holy smokes, did y'all see that on Facebook? Chris singing the national anthem?
I was there in person. It was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was not able, I was already out on the road, and
amazing.
it was.
American flag hanging over the riders, that and the presenting of the color.
So I think I'm gonna make another executive decision. If we continue to sing, it's gonna be Chris Gage leading it from now on. Sorry. Okay, my last little announcement is we have been collecting peanut butter and jelly this month for the event that Liz is putting on, trying to give back to the MARC program at Fish Ministries. And I would like to announce that, how many of you know that Rafa Clinic was had some really bad damage from the storm? They were also vandalized, and they have not been able to be open for months and months and months. So they were having to turn people away and not be of help to those individuals, and also their shelves were cleared. So they are now trying to restock the shelves, and the one thing that they are asking for the most is diaper wipes. So next month I would like to see us bring some diaper wipes, and let's get Rafa Clinic shelves restocked, please. Okay? Troy, if you would like to make your announcement.
So we've been putting in lots of hours at the Haunted Landmark every Monday night, and this Monday is going to be another one. So this is the last Monday coming up before we actually kick off things October 4th and 5th. So if you can be here and help us, we're going to be doing last touches, getting a few things cleaned up a little bit more, and then just getting everything ready, and then doing a walkthrough. So at the end of tonight, or let me rephrase that. At the end of this meeting, if you want to walk through and see the haunted house, the way we've got it all set up and ready to go, feel free to join us. We'll do that immediately after this meeting. Thank you.
Everybody wants to do that.
Where will that tour start? Where will that tour start?
We'll start
at the place?
Yeah,
I
just
was-
at the
Okay.
staircase over here, just
Okay.
like customers do.
Okay.
Everybody understand that? Okay. I have one more thing before the speaker comes up. I've been trying to do this all month, but it just hasn't happened. So, I would like to invite Chris Gage up here. I told y'all he was amazing.
Gonna sing?
He is gonna sing. We'll have to sing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow. I would like to announce that Chris Gage, by unanimous vote, was voted Rotarian of the Month for the month of August. His contributions to Rotary are just astounding. He is literally, every time I've asked him to do anything, no matter how stupid it is, and I can get stupid, he has been there. He's been there at Friday morning meetings at 8 a.m., back-to-back weeks. He has done everything I've asked him to do, and I am so extremely proud to give this award to him. You deserve every second. Okay. I think the only thing that is left now is if Mr. David Weiland would come up and please introduce our speaker today.
Okay, one of the really neat things that I get to do is to be serve on the board of CASA. And during that preparation for that, the year prior to being on the board and now on the board, I began to know more and appreciate more Lori Cope. She's the executive director of CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates. And we've invited her to come give the program today, and when I called her and talked to her about it, she thought it was extremely important to bring Judge Beach with her. And of course, Judge Aiken is here too, and we can't, CASA can't do their work without the district court judges being on board with what we do. So Lori, would you come up and present the program?
Thank y'all for having me. As y'all know, CASA for Hunt County, Court Appointed Special Advocate. Glad you remember that, David. That was some good board training there. You got all that. So, yes, our two judges for this county, Judge Bennett, Judge Aiken. I've served in CASA in other counties. I've been to other courts involving CASA. And I can tell you, and I'm being very honest, our two judges in this county that oversee the CPS cases are the best I've ever seen. So I want to just thank them for the work that they do. We couldn't do, of course, what we do because we are court-appointed special advocates. CASA volunteers don't get involved in these cases until the judges sign an order of protection for the children, and they appoint CASA for Hunt County. We then assign a CASA volunteer to advocate for that child or children, sibling group, throughout their journey through the foster care system. So even if parents are terminated or they relinquish their rights, CASA stays with those children until they are in their permanent home. So the CASA volunteers build a terrific rapport with these children. I like to say that when we get in front of these judges for these cases to issue our concerns and our recommendations, I truly believe it's the CASA volunteer that knows those children better than anybody in that courtroom. Yes, Child Protective Services, CPS, I like to say they're holding the reins, they're driving this wagon. They are in charge. But you know, these CPS caseworkers, they've got 10, 12, 15 cases. The children will have an attorney assigned to them. But you know, they've got a lot of clients, a lot of things to do too. But when a CASA volunteer takes that case, and I've got some CASA volunteers in this group right here, they know that work. They can spend more quality time with these children than probably anybody else involved in these cases. They go to the foster home. You know, I have to say we never want a child going from the frying pan into the fire. We want to be sure this foster home is appropriate for these children. We talk to their teachers, their counselors, their doctors, everything so that we're gathering information so that we can provide information to the judges who make the decision for these children, for their future. You know, while they're in foster care, that's a short time in their life, but boy, what a time that is. And to have an advocate who is there for them, and we like to say we're a constant for these children. Statistics show in Hunt County these children will move 2 to 3 times during the pendency of their case. But sometimes it's 5, 6, 7 times during the pendency of their case. They may get a new CPS caseworker. They'll get a new foster family, new school, new friends. But guess who's the constant? That CASA volunteer. I always like to tell this story. When I was a CASA volunteer way, way back, long, long time ago, I had 2 little girls. And these 2 little girls had lived a life of isolation. That's what abusive parents do. They kept them out of school, kept them isolated. They'd only been to Walmart like twice in their young lives. And they were ages 4 and 5, and then 5 and 6. They moved into a foster home that wasn't great. And so very quickly, they got moved from that foster home. So there's another new foster home. Then they got a relative popped up. Hey, I'll take these girls. And then because of the behavioral issues, after about 3 months, they said, whoop, we can't do this. We need to find another placement for them. So they went to another foster home. That didn't work out too well. Then these little girls were moved clean across the Metroplex. A lot of traffic, tall buildings. Took about 3 hours to get to the new foster home. And about 2 days later, when I walked in that door, you know what they said? They said, Miss Laura, you found us. You found us. So again, these CASA volunteers are so important for these children. And here in CASA, here in Hunt County, on any given day, we are serving about 200 Hunt County children. It's grown. About 2 years ago, our average was around 155, 165 children on any given day. But as the population grows, as that ever-present problem of drug addiction continues for our parents, these cases are going to keep on coming. And these children are going to keep on coming. I ran some statistics. I know you guys like stats. But in Texas, in 2018, every single day, on average, there were 56 children removed from their home and entered the foster care system. In 2018, in Texas, there were 52,397 children in the foster care system. Many of you know this system is called overburdened, broken. They need that advocate there to be sure that we can help them through this journey in their life. So, I got more stats. We already talked about 200 kids, but last year we served 351 Hunt County children with volunteer advocacy. So again, we have a small staff, but it's the volunteers that are screened, trained, and then they're sent out to go into the trenches and to be there for these children. There's a lot of changes coming about. We know that's coming because since 2010, the foster care system has been under what's called foster care redesign. And the latest thing that's come out of that is called what's going to be called community-based care. They've got some programs that are starting with that. Looks good on paper. Looks good. Maybe that might be a solution so that our kids can stay closer to home. Every service that they need, from counseling to the foster homes, everything will be right here in this 7-county, what they're calling catchment area. But that's going to be years and down the road. Maybe 2022, maybe 2023, if it doesn't fall off the wagon for that. But it truly would probably be a good thing, because 82% of our children, Hunt County children, are placed outside of Hunt County. They're in foster homes, maybe in Rockwall, maybe in Collin County, maybe in nearby county, but we have kids in Houston, Austin, Lubbock, and our CASA volunteer goes to see them. They may Skype with them, FaceTime with them, all those kind of cool things, but they are that child's advocate until they're in their permanent home. Could be back with improved parents. Boy, isn't that great? But when they're not, they gotta find that new forever family. And we as CASA, we have a say-so, and boy, we check out that new family as well. Because these become our kids. So many times our CASA volunteers come through our office and they say, I'm gonna go see my kids. Because that is, it feels like they're kids. We have about 68 CASA volunteers right now serving on 107 cases. That's 192 kids, siblings, everything comprising 107 cases served by 68 CASA volunteers. You can do the math. Some of our volunteers take more than one case. We are always needing CASA volunteers. So if you feel like that's something that you don't really have time for, you really just, that's not your cup of tea. I had a gentleman come in yesterday and he presented me a check. He said, I love CASA, but that's something I couldn't do. I couldn't be a volunteer because I would probably end up in front of the judges for a different reason. So we understand that. It's hard, it's challenging, it's emotionally hard. We train our volunteers to give them information about secondary trauma because they are kind of going on this journey with these kids. But we always need CASA volunteers, and if it's not you, then you probably know somebody. You probably know a friend, neighbor, relative who would, that would be a great CASA volunteer. So send them our way. We have training classes nearly every other month. It's about 30 hours of training. Part of it's online, part of it's in class. We have court observation so they can see these CPS cases as they go along before these judges. Most cases last about 1 year, but they can also last longer. Remember I said when parents are terminated or relinquish their rights, we got to find that new forever family. Those are those cases that may take 2, 3, 6 years. But that's your kin. Right? That's your kin. So I'm not going to take up, well, I think I've taken up a lot of time. I know Judge Bench talks a lot. He talks a lot. He talks a lot, I see in court. And so I don't want to just, get in on his time. He's got a little bit of time here, but I want to turn it over to Judge Bench. And again, we truly have the best judges for these CPS cases that I have ever seen. And I'm so proud to be in the CASA program with them. So Judge Bench, I'll have you come on.
Is that Judge Batman? Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
I'll say that. I think I'm not going to use this. I don't think I need it. My wife says I wouldn't need it in this small space. The first thing I want to say is, because I'm really here to talk about CASA, but the first thing I want to say before I talk directly about CASA is that you heard that statistic about 82% of our children are placed outside of this county. So recently I got very frustrated about that and went and tried to do something about it. And what I discovered was we have enough foster homes in Hunt County to cover Hunt County kids. But because it's all operated by the CPS system, CPS will give our homes to kids from the Metroplex because there's not enough over there, and then our kid doesn't have a home and has to be sent somewhere else. Okay, so I'm not nearly as optimistic about the catchment program that's coming through CPS because they've already told me, Judge, there's nothing we can do to save Hunt County homes for Hunt County kids. That's in direct opposition and contravention to their stated goal, which is to keep kids as close to home as possible. I'm under a legal obligation to make sure a kid doesn't switch schools if that's at all possible. I mean, we want things to continue on for kids. You and I deal with change better, but we all know that moving house, they say takes 5 years off your life or something crazy like that, right? Just moving from one house to another. Imagine what it does to a kid who is told on Monday, you can't see your parents anymore, okay? 3 days later, they're placed in a home 10 hours from their parents, and then we tell these parents, who generally are not very wealthy people with 2 running vehicles, if you want to see your kids now, you travel 10 hours to see them. Okay? Or we tell CPS, we know you're overburdened, we know your caseload is far too high for you to handle your kids, but we need you to drive 10 hours there, get that kid and bring him 10 hours back. Okay? So it creates innumerable problems that interfere with our ability to be able to successfully resolve these cases, which is to get the parents back on a stable footing, get them back where they can have these kids back, or if they can't, provide the children with another stable home with the least amount of possible disruption in their lives because CPS doesn't have enough homes in that county, so they use our homes. The people in this county, I'm sorry, my experience has been in the many years that I grew up here, okay, the people in this county have the biggest hearts, they're more giving, they're more willing to pitch in when a problem is brought to their attention, and I could generate probably in 2 months another 100 foster homes in this county by going around and giving a speech, right, and saying, let me have them, let me have them, let me have them. That 100 homes, 80 of them would be eaten up by the Metroplex, okay? And my kids would still be being sent to Galveston, to Houston, okay, just like Lori said. And so it's a problem. The system is broken because of the weight. The truth is we've tinkered with the CPS system for years and haven't been able to fix it because the weight keeps getting bigger. Every time we build a new structure and we say this is what's going to solve it, more and more and more kids are dumped into this meat grinder of a system, and there's just nothing we can do but start again. Let's rebuild it. Okay, now new problems because of all these new kids, the influx. It's probably increased double since I took over as a district judge and triple since I was hearing a small handful of these cases as a county court at law judge. Okay? The drugs, that's the problem. It's not the only problem, and there are other problems. But I bet 95% of the cases we see, the parents are struggling with a drug addiction. Okay? And so that's about the CPS system. It's broken. Invite me back 3 times in a row, and I'll talk to you about fixing the CPS system. Because that's how long it would take. All right? But CASA, because that's what I'm really here to talk about today. So why are CASA so important? Because the system can't handle the weight. I mean, the truth is that everybody in the room has a really well-defined statutory duty. The law says this person represents the child and this is what they're required to do. And I'll just give you an example. The attorney for the child, let's say I'm an attorney and I represent a child and that child's parents are heavily involved in methamphetamine use. They've been sent for all the treatment programs we can send them to, and they either refuse to go or they continue to use. And let's say that child is 7 years old, and that child says to the attorney at the end of the case, I want to go home to my mom and dad. Okay? That lawyer gets up at closing arguments and says, Judge, send this child home to their mom and dad. Well, that's their job. If the child is old enough to express their opinion to their attorney, the attorney is required to advocate their opinion to the court. That's their job. They don't have any choice. Be malpractice and they could lose their license if they get up and argue against what their client has told them they want, right? So that's their role. They must do it. The department has to argue for what they believe is best for the child based on their opinion within a statutory framework. Even I, as a judge, I have to consider the best interest of the child on the one hand and the constitutional rights of the parent to have their children on the other. Because we don't want a governmental system where parents don't have any rights to their own children. And I definitely don't want anybody coming to my house and trying to see, hey, you're doing okay, but I think I could probably find 100 parents in this county do a better job than you. I'm going to move your kid to one of those, right? So I don't want that. So we have to keep those constitutional issues in mind. The one pure, unfiltered opinion I'm going to get in every CPS case is from their CASA. That they can come in and no matter what the child wants, say, Judge, she wants to go home, but that'd be a horrible decision. Don't do that. Don't do that. And to be honest with you, frankly, one of the reasons why I call it an unfiltered opinion is because our CASAs are not lawyers. They're not there to advocate as an attorney would. They're not there to argue for the parent. They're not there to argue for the child's wishes. They're not there to argue for those things. They're there to argue what's best. Essentially, they're being allowed to do what I would do if I could. If the law allowed me to go out and investigate, look at the home where the parents live. Visit the children in their foster home and make sure there's not any abuse or neglect going on in that place. Okay? Because we pay foster parents. And again, I think 95%, just like anything else. I remember when I was a kid, I was in high school, I worked at a retail store, and they would tell us, don't stop somebody you think stole something unless you see them put it in their pocket and you follow them the rest of the way. Because 95% of the people that come into this store aren't going to steal something. And it's not worth us losing any of that 95% of our customer base because you're trying to stop that 5%. We'd rather lose the 5%, okay, than make a false allegation and lose some of that 95%, right? It's the same thing here. 95% of foster parents are great people, and they're in it for the right reasons. They want to help kids that need help right now. Okay? They don't mind getting a call at 2 o'clock in the morning saying we're going to be there in an hour with a kid that needs a place to sleep tonight. Okay? And you're going to take it. They don't mind that. We've got 5%, though, like any other human endeavor, of people who are in it for the wrong reason. Okay, so we have to be careful about that. That's why CASA has to go visit in the foster home. Lay eyes on that child. How are they doing? But what I expect from CASAs is the truth and, frankly, courage on behalf of these children. Because you can imagine, as a non-lawyer, you walk into a room, lawyer, CASA, right? And these lawyers, they're trained in the law, and they get up and they're making these arguments, and they've worked this all out ahead of time. And you think to yourself, as a CASA, surely the first time you walk in the door, I don't think I'm going to say anything. I mean, these are all lawyers, and I disagree with what they're saying. That's the Department of Family and Protective Services. They do this for a living. I'm not going to argue with them. I'm not going to disagree. That's what we need. I need somebody that'll say, Judge, look, I don't know if the law allows you to do this or not, but I don't care. I think the best thing for this child would be X. And I tell the CASAs when they're first sworn in, I may not be able to do what you think is best. I may agree with you and still not legally be able to do it, because again, my life is a life of rules. I live inside a box and I'm not allowed to step outside of it. But I want to hear from them what's best. Perfect world for this child. Because there's no child more in need of assistance from an adult who cares about what happens to them than the children that are in this system. Through no fault of their own, they're in state custody. They're only checked on once a month. I mean, that's it. That's really all we can do, because you heard Lori, if her statistics are right, and I assume they are, then right now most of our CASA volunteers have 2 cases. That's 1 case too many. They're supposed to have 1 at a time so they can give that level of focus on that child that's needed. Okay, 2 cases is too much for a CASA. It just is. Okay, and it wears on you emotionally. Most of us in this room did not grow up in an environment where we were not sure when Dad got home if he was going to beat the hell out of us or not. Or when Dad got home if he was going to be sober. Or if Dad was ever going to come home. I didn't have that problem. Okay? My dad didn't beat me. I didn't have to worry about my mom not coming home for 5 days, and when she did, being glad she was alive, because last time she got hurt real bad, the last time she disappeared, and Grandma and Grandpa check on me every once in a while, and they're worried, but they can't take me, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These kids live a life of unimaginable horror, some of them. And so it's hard to get in it, and it's easy to get out of it. And so we get new volunteers that come in all the time, and they come and they work their first case, and they're like, that's it. I mean, I can't be involved in this. I can't be involved in a system where a child is undergoing this kind of abuse, and it doesn't seem to be enough what I'm doing. And I can't pay that much attention to it, and I just think it's too much for me. I get that. I'm not complaining about those people. You have to have the right kind of drive and strength and personality to be able to stand up in a room full of people and say, all of you are wrong. This is the right thing to do for this child. And Judge, that's what I want you to do. But guys, we need people like that. We need people who are willing to come in and absolutely be an unabashed, unashamed, and unafraid advocate for these children. And that's what I expect of the CASAs. Because too much is at stake to be worried and afraid about what's going to happen to you in a court hearing. Okay? When you're working on behalf of a child who, if you don't do your job, they could end up in a place that's bad, back in a place that's bad. And let me tell you, I get a lot of kids, they're maybe the ones that initially reported something to a teacher. This happened to me. We don't do something for them, that's the last time they open their mouth. That's the last time they're ever going to tell us what happened. That's true of sexual abuse as well. Okay? If we don't act as adults the way we're supposed to when sexual abuse is reported to us, that may be the last time that child ever says a word. Because I told an adult I thought I could trust or I thought was responsible. Nothing happened. I'm in the same situation, except now everybody's angry because I told about Uncle Johnny. Okay? And it's the same here. We have to act in their best interest. They have to feel that something's been done for them. And that's part of a CASA's role, is to make sure that a child, even if they disagree with the CASA, and that happens a lot. I got a lot of teenage kids that want to go home. They want to go home to mom and dad. They don't care if mom and dad are still using methamphetamine. They figure, hey, I did 10 years of that. I can do it the rest of the 2 or 3 that I've got left. I want to go home. That's what I know. That's where I want to be. And it's hard as a CASA to tell a child, I'm not going to tell the judge that. I'm just not. I'm sorry, I can't. It's not what's best for you. But it has to be done, and we need people to do it. It's a war. I got to be honest with you. And I don't always agree with CASA. Sometimes I'm not allowed to by the law, and sometimes I have a different opinion. But I tell my CASAs, don't be downhearted about that. Because if you start thinking about what is the judge going to say, is he going to agree or can he do what I want, it limits what you say. You limit yourself to, I'm not going to say this because I'm concerned that the judge won't do it and it'll make me look foolish or silly. That's ridiculous. Your job is to say what's best for the child, period. And so that's what I expect in my CASAs. to work for these kids. Keep your eyes on them. Let us know where they are. The horror stories about kids that slipped through the cracks before we started using a CASA system here, and even after, frankly, not here in Hunt County, but across this state, they're terrible when we're not working for these kids, when we're not watching these kids and nobody's paying attention. And you heard the numbers about how many we have. I mean, I just can't believe there's 200. I can't believe there are 200 children. Judge Aiken and I work at least half a week, okay, every week. Really, if you average it all out on CPS cases, it's probably about that because there's so many. It eats up my ability to do my other cases, that's fine. But if I do one thing that's going to make a difference, it's this. Okay? These kids are all headed for lives of prostitution, drug addiction, sexual abuse, being perpetrators of sexual abuse, physical abuse, being perpetrators of physical abuse, suicide. That's where they're heading. And this is our chance to be in there and ricochet that life off in a different direction, to make it change. Because part of the reason why we have so many kids in care now is because we didn't do enough for the kids we had in care 30 years ago. Because we didn't do the right things for the kids we had in care 30 years ago. I'm amazed at the number of parents that come in and they were in foster care and they say, I don't want my kids in foster care, they'll get raped. It tells me a lot about how long it took the state of Texas to open its eyes to the problem. I don't know that there's a lot that can be done to change the tide, the statistics. I don't know that there's a lot that can be done to eliminate the need for CPS. But I don't care about that as much as I care about that one kid standing in front of me right now. What can I do for him? What can I do for her? If I only make his life better today, it was worth coming down here and listening to all this crap all day long so I could help that boy right there. And maybe he doesn't have his child in care 25 years from now. Maybe he's not in the prison system 25 years from now because of what I did today. We can never measure that kind of success. There's no way for us to go back now and find this kid was a success because of CASA intervention. But I can tell you without a doubt, I don't need statistics. The children in this county are better off for having a CASA. That's why we appoint them. The children in this county are going to have better outcomes for having a CASA. And so I encourage everybody in this room, I agree exactly with what Lori said. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody's got the time. Not everybody's got the inclination. And some people honestly say to me, I don't think I could listen to that. I don't blame them. And if that you can't do it, I get it. But you know somebody that can. One of the problems we have is we've got to get the word out to people. We need people to help these kids. We need people to help these kids. And it's very hard for us to get the word out. And so I encourage you, if you can, talk to Lori. Get trained. Do a case. See what a difference you can make in that child's life. If you can't, talk to your friends. Or whether you can or can't, talk to your friends. Hey, I heard about something I think it'd be great for you. Here's a number. Call CASA and talk to them about maybe being a volunteer. See if this is something you might be interested in doing. It's the hardest volunteer position I know. To step into the life of a child that's in crisis, whose entire world's been turned upside down, and it's no fault of their own. Everything is wrong. And the one thing they thought they could stand on, for all of us when we were kids, the one thing we could stand on was the constancy of our parents, our home. We went to school, we came home, mom was there, dad was there. These kids don't have that. They just lost it. We've ripped it out from under them. And they don't understand why. And I agree, CASA is the one person who goes to them and says, I'm here, what do you need? I'm here, how can I help you? And then comes to court and says, Judge, you got to move them from that house and put them somewhere else. Or Judge, don't move them from this house. We can't move them. Every time a kid moves, y'all, we get more negative outcomes for that kid. More chances of negative outcomes. Sometimes it has to be done, we just move them. You heard 2 or 3 times on average, 5 or 6 times for some. I've got some that have been more times than that. 10, 15 times. But the CASA is the one person that follows them from place to place and says, I'm going to do everything I can for you. I have not forgotten about you. You are not lost in a system. You are someone who is important and who's going to be remembered and who is going to be heard when the time comes about what happens in your life. And so I encourage everybody in this room, if you know anybody that might be interested, if you are interested, to step into this important role this thankless role, this difficult role, to intervene on behalf of the life of a child. Because y'all, CASA's making a difference here every day. And you can too. And so I ask you to just please consider being a part of this very, very important project. And I thank you for your time. And if there's time, I'll be glad to answer questions, but I don't usually leave time for that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the first thing that I want to say is for both of you guys, I want to say that I appreciate the stats that you gave and the real world examples, because I think when we're hearing about examples of actual cases, that makes it real to all of us. We can all stand up here and talk about CASA this and CASA that, but until you know exactly what CASA does and how it affects those children, that puts it into the real world for all of us that may not see what you guys have seen before. And for you, Judge Bench, what I want to say is I love the description that you gave of the perfect CASA. Because all of us in this room, you may not be that person that you described, but all of us know somebody like that, don't we? We all know that there's somebody that can stand up in a room full of people and say, I don't care what you say. This is what I believe in. And so that's the kind of person that they're looking for. And that's, I appreciate you giving that description, because without that description, we might not know who to target. And I happen to know some CASA volunteers that aren't as obnoxious and overbearing as I am. So, you know, I'm not a CASA volunteer, but they don't all have to be that way. They can be very, very mild-mannered and very respectful, but still be able to stand up in front of that room full of people and say, no, this is what I believe is the truth. I want right now, very quickly, everybody that is a CASA volunteer, I would like you to stand, please. Or on the board. Anybody who is a part of CASA, I would like you to stand. So, and David Ellis. So, right now, I would like to say thank you very much.
Cammy.
And Cammy,
She's
Cammy
already
who is
standing.
standing already. So thank you very much for your volunteerism. I know what that means after having worked with children in the mental health system for many, many, many years. I know what it takes, and I appreciate that immensely. Okay, we are going to call it a day. Please do not forget to follow Troy and Bob down to the haunted house if you would like to see the haunted house. That's Rotary.
This video has been brought to you by Juice 34. Juice is your community-owned provider for electric, internet, cable TV, and true local programming.